Welcome back. Joining me today, or I should say tonight, it's Sunday night. I never record shows on Sunday nights, and this is a special one with Brian Tyler. He's joining me from his studio somewhere in an undisclosed location. And he's working on Mario Brothers. Is that right? Or can we say that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just did.
Mario Galaxy, yeah.
So Brian's recognized and being recognized right now for his outstanding original score from Nuremberg. He joins us as part of our Hollywood Film Composers series, presented by The Jeremiah Show with executive producer Carol Connors. Brian, man, you've provided me with an emotional roller coaster at the movies for a long time, and I want to thank you before I do anything else for that, Brian. It's just
You're very
amazing.
welcome.
The films that you have scored are some of my favorites. I told you on my list, my short list and my long list.
Cool.
And that roller coaster that you created for me, I want to stay on it for a little while longer.
Good.
Yeah. So Brian, I just want to say also congratulations on being Oscar shortlisted and BAFTA longlisted for Nuremberg. Pretty hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's, the film, it's been a long time coming. In terms of the film, it's such a, for lack of a better word, like a timely and film very well made by James Vanderbilt, whom I worked with for a few decades. And it's something we've been wanting to work on for quite a while. And the film got going. We got Russell Crowe and Rami Malek and everybody involved, Michael Shannon, and they did a terrific job. So to me, it was, like a personal, it's a personal film in the sense that it's about who we all are and our place in history. And certainly the film could not be more timely, seeing what's happening
Right.
all over our own country right now, and so it was really something to dive into. I love writing music that can that emotionally can tell a story, but also kind of create an environment that feels real, transportive and immersive, and I think the film really does that. That's what we were talking about. I wrote music. I started writing music for Nuremberg, which is the trials right at the end of the Holocaust, and after. So, but I couldn't really write music just for that. I had to back up. So I started writing music for this movie in the 30s, the rise of the Third Reich, and throughout World War II, and going through everything from Poland, through the camps, through the demise of Hitler, and then of course right after that we have some of the main Nazis rounded up and put on trial, and so I needed the background, almost like when a screenwriter writes a story and there's a character that comes in halfway through, you write backstory. Well, they grew up in this city and there were this type of, so musically I needed to really back up, which was it's a very intense process going back and writing that. It was something like a 6-hour kind of symphonic suite that I wrote that starts in the 30s, and then the movie starts, so.
Why was it important for you to have that backstory and go back so far to understand going forward for the picture?
Well, I think something that's natural when you're doing a historical film. I did a film called Partition that was about the partition of India into two, World War II, the same time period. And I remember going into it and getting very heavily involved in it, looking at interviews and reaching out and going there and talking to people. And you kind of get, to me, it's almost like character acting in a way. You have to immerse yourself at least to the point where your empathy is highly calibrated to what was happening. And this was something that was so complex. You're talking about telling the story, and it's not just it's not a simple story. You have people that were conscripted into the army, and then the division in the country, and all these different things, and then the ideas of families being brought in, and the plight of anyone that was persecuted, and in this case, a conscript against the Jews. It's so intense, but I didn't want to just jump in. I mean, I was history and philosophy major. It's something that I love doing anyway, but in this case, I felt it was necessary just to have more perspective. I knew what I knew, but it wasn't the detail of researching at a level that was more than I would do even for dissertation, really, from my past and days. And what it did is it set me up in a way to have a backdrop. Like, for instance, there's a point in the story where Goering, it's before he takes the cyanide to commit suicide instead of going to the gallows, right? And he has a cyanide capsule that he snuck in to a cell, and he's going to take it. And the music of the film, the music of the trial and all that kind of had echoes of the past. You had voices from the past echoing through those that were at Dachau and Auschwitz that were murdered. There was a lullaby and a kind of a family theme that I wrote for those people that I'd written when it was really the portion of my music writing that took place in World War II, during the camps. And that theme kept coming back actually in Nuremberg because there was so much of an echo of it. And when he's about to commit suicide instead of facing the gallows, he's looking at a photo, and the photo is from his life, someone that he loved. I think he's thinking, I'm a good person. Look, I loved. What could be so wrong with me? I love this person, and kind of trying to convince himself at the end that he wasn't evil, that he didn't. There was a reason that somehow the Nuremberg defense allows him to. But you hear the echo of that lullaby family theme of the Jews that were murdered at Auschwitz and Dachau seeping in as he's looking at this photo, almost him trying to say, no, go away, in his memory. And his conscience wouldn't even let him tell himself, you're a good guy. And so his final moments were, in my mind, a comeuppance of the reality of who he is. And the same thing when Hess, he's being led to the gallows, if you recall. And you hear that that bell chord that was played at Auschwitz, that were for the prisoners to say to go to bed or to eat or to go to the trains or the ovens or anything, from this horrible way of marking time, and then you hear that over and over, and it's in his head thinking, what was done to me now that is being done, or what was done to them that I did to these innocent people is being now done to me, a non-innocent. So that's just two examples, but there's so many where I wanted to bring in the power of a people that rose up against, and this is the first moments of possible justice against this long injustice that the world had endured, and in particular, with many other people, but in particular, the Jews.
And Brian, what is that cue? What is that musical cue? What did you title that?
Oh gosh, it's called Judgment. Yeah, okay. And
play that here.
Yeah, it's chilling, and it's three different chords that I interpreted from the actual kind of bell tone that they would were marking time at the camps, and turned it into a kind of score. It's very, if you listen to what it is, it's almost it's tonal but slightly atonal, and almost like feels dehumanizing. And like when the tables had turned for Hess, and he's being led to, and there's the gallows. You would think he's thinking, wow, this has come full circle. Now I am the one being led to my death. But the thing is about certain people that lack an empathy for others. What were his last words? It was Heil Hitler. Even despite that, even despite what must have been running through his head. So, you know, it's a study of um, the movie, and the music is a study of rising up against an indifferent or evil foe. I always say indifference is almost worse than evil and more insidious, but I say they go hand in hand. A callousness for the other, the lack of empathy. And if you listen to the music of Nuremberg, it has like a hope to it. There's actually one part of the symphonic suite, the 5 parts, is just called Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was, a lot of what you see about the Holocaust is about, and this definitely goes into this, but the horrors of it, the injustice, and this the part of the that's been focused on is when the bad guys are winning, when evil is triumphing. And I wanted to emphasize, look, these are the trials that we thought we as the Allies thought that we would never nail them, like they would get away with anything, and we see that now. And the idea of hope, and having kind of like a music that also is really strong, like there is music in there that's like, it feels right from the jump. You hear the family lullaby theme, but then it goes into this kind of, we're making moves, we're fighting back, like, no, it's like, it's very strong. And often when you have a film about something so tragic, all the emphasis is on the tragedy. And I wanted to show that we have the ability, in spite of things seeming hopeless, which also sometimes can feel like right now for a lot of people, that the human condition, and most of us are good. Goodness is a virtue that is more common than the other way around. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, I wanted this movie and the music to remind people that no matter what the despair is in your life, if there's injustice done to you, that there is hope on the horizon that is possible. And so, like the last scene, when you see, you see Douglas Kelly walking down the hallway, it's playing that hope theme, even though he is really disappointed in how people now weren't taking seriously that this could actually happen again. And nothing tells us more that it could happen again. This, all you have to do is, the last 72 hours, turn on the news.
Yeah. Well, when you incorporated those bell tones, from that were used in the concentration camps, they were never meant to be musical.
No,
they were something ominous. And did you feel like a responsibility when you made that choice? Was that a heavy choice to make, or was it very conscious? And
every choice in this film felt like a kind of, there's a lot of responsibility. How do I play this? How do I represent, like, acknowledge the difficulty of being there, the tragedy, but at the same time a drive to fight back at the same time, or something that's as personal and as real as what they heard, incorporating it into a movie. And it really, and here's one of the things that it was talking to the director, and this is when we were deciding whether or not, this is before even filming, something would be included in the film, which was the footage of the actual camps that John Ford shot. Mm-hmm. In where you see tough scene. Yeah, you see the bodies and the actors and the people on that set. That was a 1-for-1 recreation of the actual, like down to the inch, of the actual courtroom that was used for the trials. They played that without prior knowledge. They had no idea that was something that would become, and then trained the cameras on their faces watching it, what we see also in the theater. And you see, this isn't just a movie. This is crossing over into man's inhumanity to man, and that's real. That happened, and it is shocking. And you can see the looks on the faces of the actors, who some of them haven't seen that. And since Jamie was willing, the director was willing to go that bold with it, and the producer, Sherrick, so many of these people that made the movie had family at Auschwitz, and they had grandparents and whatnot, and survivors and non-survivors. So this was a very, took a lot of thought. So I thought with the music, I should not back away from trying to, since this is also trial after the Holocaust, that to make the impact of why we're doing the trial, and that's why we needed the footage to show what are we fighting for here against this. And so the music had to hit hard, even if it's, as film scoring can often be, it is partly subconscious and partly conscious. It's what you call idiomatic. You're aware of it, but you're not aware of quite what it's actually doing. And in a sense, there's a responsibility there for that. This was in Nuremberg, but at the same time, I was at the theater, a theater that was being built in Vegas for Are We Dreaming, and there was it talks about, Are We Dreaming gets into who we are as human beings and what are we going to do with the days we have left and all this. And there's a moment after I met one of the executives that owned, a good portion of these different theaters and places there. And I didn't know him. He said, this is really great. It's amazing. I'm, very emotional and powerful. And I hope you're a good guy, because this is so powerful that you could do something. You could influence people the wrong way. I'd never heard someone put it that way before. That you could actually somehow use it for good or not. And on this film, what he had said like the year before, as I'd worked on Are We Dreaming, and then was working on this film, kind of came into focus, where there's a lot there, and there's trust with the director and the studio and Sony and everything for what I do to kind of bring the film home. At the very end of the last part of the film, really, we put on the music, and it's going to be what I'm doing, and the responsibility on this felt more real than ever.
And how did that take a toll on you? Did it?
Yeah,
it must have been something that you took home every night, and
I worked on it night and day, and I would read also these characters. I read about all their background, the Nazis, the people that were there at the trial that were fighting back, the families that were connected to certain Nazis such as Goering and whatnot. It is hard to read. It is really, or watching footage. You just go into a place and it was like I was fighting back with my music. It felt like this was my Nuremberg trials, scoring it and trying to right some wrong somehow, or like I always say, with my life and my career, I try to bring in, just if I leave this earth, I bring in more joy or understanding than I left it with, hopefully, to move the needle in what I feel is the right and the good direction of goodness towards others, and empathy between people, and understanding, which is the thing that we often lack. And for me, I don't know if you even know this, but I when I was finishing the movie, I suffered a double brain hemorrhage, and it was it's called, what is it official? Is it double subarachnoid brain hemorrhage, which I should not have survived. It was, remember, they were putting me, it's extreme pain when it happens. It's called the thunderclap. It's so painful. And it was 2 of them within an hour, and totally out of nowhere. It's like lightning striking. Won't happen again. It just happens, And but I remember them putting me in the ambulance. They say, you should probably, if there's any loved ones around, just want to say something, because we have to, for your pain, put you out, but you're probably not going to open your eyes again. 4 out of 5 people don't make it to the hospital that are in the ambulance for this. And I was really fortunate, not just to survive, which a double is something like 1 out of 20. It's some crazy, but that I can speak, I can walk, I was, after not too long in the hospital, I was there. It was terrible, but I'm fully functional. I'm conducting tomorrow. I play tennis. That's when we're talking about. That doesn't. It should have been 7 months of rehab and learning to speak again, learning to talk. And neurologist, he's like, you want to know how lucky you are? Here's the waiting room. To look at the waiting room. It's just wheelchairs and people trying to just it really it hit me in a way that then after this happened and I was finishing this, all of a sudden I had a sensitivity to life that I could not have possibly understood before facing certain death.
Mortality, right? Yeah, you faced your mortality.
Mortality, absolutely. And thinking of people that were thinking that they were almost certainly they saw people go on the trains into the ovens and all that. Just a horrifying for no reason, completely unfair, right? Just the inhumanity of that. But because I was faced with like, you're probably not going to survive this. I could have, everyone, even I always say there's a piece called Gates of Time in Are We Dreaming that I'd already written and filmed and done the music for, and it's the very last quote says, live each day as if it's your last because so far it is. And it's something that I really do. I would kind of, it would be a mantra of mine. Look, we never know when all this, but boy, I thought I knew, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know like this, and so now my perspective is totally different. Why am I writing music? What are the projects I'm doing? What, the obligations I have, the time I have for, I think I was bumped off.
No, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I thought I went.
So what mattered to you became, now it meant this whole new thing to you. What mattered? What was the work that you were meant to do? What would you choose? What would you, wow, what a heavy thing to think
I realized Nuremberg was the type of thing that I want to do. And I've always wanted to do, my wheelhouse has always really been kind of like very emotionally resonant music that's undercurrent to a story that feels real or is true. And that's really my wheelhouse. And it always has been, but you get known for all sorts of things, and I love all kinds of music, I do everything from, I love writing jazz. I love writing drum and bass and producing hip hop records and metal. I come from, drums and guitar and singing and all that, all of it. And I do all of it still, always. But in terms of film scoring, I think moving someone to feel something that matters is and giving some kind of insight that words cannot, that dialogue cannot, that visuals cannot. There is a thing about music. There's a reason why it's hard for musicians to talk to musicians about music. It's hard enough for people that, the greatest composers could try to describe a piece of music that they haven't heard, and it's not going to be what it's described. When you hear it afterwards, oh my God, that's so, it's that hard. Words fail me, and music describes things kind of in an emotional resolution that is,
it's its own language.
40 million bits per second compared to like 12 that like a language has. We have like words that are synonyms for certain things that maybe we have 3 or 4 words for the same thing. Music, you tell a certain kind of emotion, you tell it a billion ways. So it's just it's a really great gift to have.
Yeah.
In being someone that, had trouble communicating as a child as well. So, but anyway, yeah, the with Nuremberg and with anything, I look at it and I think, wow, I have people coming up to me and talking to me about the music and the movie and how great it is, but then I have people that come up to me, my parents were lost and or this, or, my grandfather, or one survived, or this, or, in kind of these personal stories, or you look at, the fear of the other, which we see in our own country right now, and rounding up people. It's like, when people say history often, it doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. What I wanted to do with this film is make it feel current, because I think it's really, with something like Nuremberg, like the Holocaust or any war film. Let's take World War II. Often it's going to be kind of either shot black and white or has a feel of the past, and almost like a sepia tone style. I don't want to sepia tone or black and whiteify the music to make it feel safely in the past. Like, that was terrible, but that'll never happen again. That was so long ago. We were primitives. And so with the music, even though it's symphonic and uses orchestra and there's adagios and piano and all that, the harmonic structure of the music doesn't feel like the 40s. It feels like today. So how we listen to music now, we're accustomed to hearing certain things that feel more true emotionally than maybe something from a bygone era. You're like, wow, this is this is great, but you're aware it's vintage. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, you hear like music from the 20s or the 30s, some jazz. You know, it doesn't sound like you're, you know, right now. It's fun because it isn't. But so that was a choice that I made to try to make sure people felt like this was yesterday, and now ironically it was yesterday. You know, we're repeating, and so that was one of those choices that you know, when I'm working on things, it feels like, wow, I'm glad I made that choice. Imagine if I did it the other way, you know? And it's only after that you can kind of take it all in. And that's what I'm doing now. Because I'm seeing screenings now. Finally, I'm like being able to watch it like an audience member.
Mm-hmm. And then how does, you know, it's such a serious topic as you were talking about earlier, and how do you as a composer, how do you write the music that you're not allowing the listener comfort? How do you write that?
Yeah. It's kind of both. It's like there's at the music of Nuremberg in particular, it has there's a thing that's inviting about it that happens that kind of draws you in, and it feels like you're saying, actually like comfortable at first.
Yeah.
In the sense that it feels like this is home. Like the melodies, it feel and it's like I call it like the goal is always to create instant nostalgia or built-in history. So because you're just meeting these characters and you have to feel like you've known them for 20 years, you know, the good guys, right? So you can relate to the plight of a psychiatrist that's trying to, you know, earn the trust of Hermann Goering, but also the end goal is to get him to confess or whatever it might be. And so the music feels like a warm blanket at first. It feels almost like, you know, like folk melodies and melodies that are timeless that you can write in that style, so it feels familiar in a way, but and beautiful. But then you turn on its, you know, you change the harmony underneath the chords. It's the same melody, but all of a sudden the structure changes below it, and you recognize that melody. But now you are feeling intensely motivated, or upset, or angry, or you want to get over and you want justice, or you have fear, or you have ultimately joy. And all of these things, the goal is always for me to write melodies that I can change the structure, almost the ground below it, and keep the melody. And so you feel familiar and you feel like this is home, but sometimes home turns into a home invasion, or it's something that is you're fighting for, or the people, you know, whatever it might be. Home doesn't necessarily always mean just
and
relaxing, but you know, can go to other places.
Yeah, and that's okay too in film score, you know, to make us face these things that even if we weren't directly responsible, it's in humanity. And I think film scores do that so much. I, you know, mentioned that in the beginning, where it's, you know, you really look in the mirror and you feel things that maybe you may not feel walking around in your normal life. And I think that's so powerful. What
you can relate to. It's kind of like we take things that we do, and then that might have been terrifying or scary, or an injustice that's done to us, and then we know what that feeling is, but then it's magnified by what you hear and what you see on screen. Wow, these people went through that, but like this.
It's in
and
your
then you put yourself in the shoes of a movie,
and
then it's almost like that's what empathy is. Empathy is basically, you know, being in the shoes of whom you're either talking to or watching. And most people understand that. Some people don't have empathy. They're called sociopaths or psychopaths, right? And they don't get it. And unfortunately, often it's easier to rise to power when you're like that, because you don't care about running right over someone if it serves your benefit. You don't have the burden of saying, oh, damn, well, that person, that gives me something from natural selection. We're naturally selected as beings to feel nausea, and these negative chemicals go off when we do something like that. Guilt, the list goes on. If you don't have that, you can see why people could rise to power. Like it explains things like the Third Reich.
What a
and others.
power what a gift and what a power that you have. It must be at times exhilarating that you can create these feelings and these big moments and these big, really affect people the way that you do with your scores and your music. So powerful. It must also sometimes be really scary that you've got this power to create uh,
Well,
all of that
it
you talked
certainly,
about, empathy, the love, the feelings
yeah,
of being
yeah.
scared.
You want
You
to do it
said,
right. You drew the wrong chord, you could throw things, especially talking about something that's like a history, and then
that
or
hasn't
like
happened.
directing. I wrote, Are We Dreaming,
Yeah.
and about who we are, and basically based on the idea that the truism, which I read in a Hawking um, book about physics, is basically that at some point the last photon will peter out and there'll be no more energy, no more life, no more. It'll be less than a void. Like the energy stops. Time. There's not even time. It's just you know. Try to think of something less than a void, and then you're kind of getting there, right? And that's 155 trillion years or so. So the idea right at the beginning, are we dreaming, is saying, can we as intelligent beings, says that, it talks about that, and it says, can we as intelligent beings come together? Basically, the only way we can think of to make time continue is to create an artificial star so large that when it goes supernova, it kickstarts a new Big Bang and time begins again. So that's kind of the premise. It takes 155 trillion years of time. And during that, you have all these vignettes of human beings, or in the future from here to about 1 million years from now, when we leave Earth and we accidentally find Voyager that was shot out into space, and we see, what is this Earth place that we don't even remember we were from? And we go back to Earth, and go back in time to 1916, and we see World War I, when we're building tanks to destroy each other, and we become in a war with ourselves from the future. All this great, but it's all based on humanity. Kind of, when we use the word humanity, not just humanity, but like intelligent life, how with empathy it would be universal. How do you treat others? It's a subject that fascinates me, along
Mhm.
with futurism and physics and time itself, and all of these things that I've always studied. And so each movie kind of, maybe when it's really working for me, is it touches on something that really interests me. But because so I've been telling people stories for many years, other people's stories, which I love. But that's why Are We Dreaming is here, because I have a lot to say, and I'm just really lucky that I can make this at scale with these
Such a
wild visuals, and it's a mind-blowing visual, just the most ambitious kind of science fiction, science fact project I could think of, and which I'm helming. So but all along the way, I learned something from every director I work with and every storyteller.
so
Jack Elhai wrote the book, Not Seeing a Psychiatrist and Not Seeing a Psychiatrist, which Nuremberg is based on, which I had before we did the movie, because one of my orchestrators is Robert Elhai, his nephew. And just by coincidence, and I think if I'm reading that book, I remember thinking, wow, this would make a great movie. To tell the story from the perspective of. And I think music's always telling the story from the perspective of, and then I get to use that music to get you there. And it's really fun when you get to direct it and visually get you there as well, in performances and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm going to give out the information to the website. You've got some shows coming up.
Oh yeah,
Early spring,
Check it
summer.
out.
Yeah, we got to check it out. Everybody got to check it out. You've also put out the link to the video. You've
Oh yeah.
really, really sucked me in. I mean,
Oh, you see those? I think you see the rocks like kind of rising in mountains.
Yeah.
As that's after we, as a future people, have gone out into space for hundreds of thousands of years, and by then it's like, well, Earth, why are we looking for another planet? Earth's fake news. That was mythology. We never were from Earth. But then come across Voyager, which was shot out in 1978, I think, that has the gold records that tell us in the future what Earth is. And so as they come back, there's kind of they're judgmental, and they decide to try to take us out, which of course would be a paradox. And so it goes through time, and it loops through time, and each night is different, by the way. So every song that is a part of it, it's all musicals like a modern Fantasia, but telling this story through going through wormholes, and there's cast and there's ships, and it even goes back 2,000 years to the Aztecs and all sorts of things. But
quite a production.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's 502 songs or something with visuals. It's like it's like a 50-hour broken down movie that isn't a movie. It's, you see it, but it's different every night. As I'm watching the audience, I'll take the journey from here to the end of time differently. Will we be successful and create a new universe or not? Well, how will it end? And the journey is, I can't even do it the same way twice unless I wrote down how I did it one particular night and copied it. Just the odds of it doing the same way twice is almost zero, pretty much zero.
Do you like that flexibility? That
10 to the 64 powers.
New?
Yeah, I love that. So there's people, when I've been doing test shows for years, I mean, I'm working on this for years. Finally, Monster Cat's putting out the albums, as many volumes, starting late spring, summer, I believe. And there's people that would come to these like test shows that I would do. I've worked with the Sphere for many years on it and all this, and I would do this. And people have come like 70 times to see it differently, just as like on the list for the test shows. It's really wild, where, it's kind of a singular experience that, people just, what? They don't almost know what they're getting in for. It's very powerful and cool and transportive and immersive. And visuals are really wild. Everyone from just enjoys it, just like, what the heck? There's people that come and trip, whatever. It's like, it's really, really powerful and really hard to put into words.
Well, that's why I want to send them to your website. Check it out on arewedreaming.com. And
yeah.
You'll get the visuals, you get the music, and it's just a fantastic story.
We're doing actually also we're doing performance. We'll be announcing that's also crossing, because it's a lot of different like electronic music, drum and bass and hip hop, but there's also this orchestral component too that comes in, and metal also. But I'm going to do with an orchestra and choir and laser light with the visuals on the huge screen. That's why I've been working with this Sphere. There's a massive screen and you're going through the universe, and we're going to do one coming up that's going to be really special that merges the two worlds of film scoring and Are We Dreaming together. It's going to be special next year. Yeah.
All right. Well, we definitely, you got to come back and tell us when you're,
I will.
You got some dates there.
I know what it is. I just can't say anything about it yet. I even know where it is, but yeah.
Well, Brian, you said that Nuremberg reset you creatively. And to me, reset kind of implies clearing something away. What did you let go of?
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
What did you said Nuremberg reset you creatively, and that you reset to me implies that you cleared something away, that you let go of something. What did you let go of?
100%. So what that referencing is that we only have so many days to say what we want to say, do what we want to do, and spend time with those that we love, and try to give back for just the fortune of being alive. Every time I talk, it sounds like Are We Dreaming, because Are We Dreaming is really me, but I'll say something from it. Think of this, and also with my brain hemorrhage and surviving. I mean, think if you were a non-corporeal, just kind of entity, and a god or whatever is saying, I'm going to send you to a planet, and it's Earth, and you're like, oh my, Earth, they have life there. There's life on Earth. Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky. And then you realize, this is how lucky we are. Okay, well, there's 52 million species. Just hitting human, just being born human, is beyond lucky. Beyond 1 in 52 million species we landed on, let alone landing in a modern era with refrigeration, windows that protect us from the wind, transport, air conditioning, all of this thing, grocery stores, right? You could be landed any time in human history when your lifespan would be an average of 17 or, whatever. And here we are, kind of taking it for granted, maybe a little bit, I mean, just that perspective of, wow, I haven't told you what species you're going to be. You want to be human? Well, you have a 1 in 52 million shot of that happening. So just that, and the perspective that Nuremberg kind of brought along with what's happening in my life is that, what am I doing this for? Like, what am I spending my time on? Like, it's projects that mean something. I've been very fortunate to do any film, to be a musician that made 10 cents. I could be a busker. I could be, and one of my best friends, someone that, since I was at Harvard, he was a guy that was, he's on the street and he played guitar. One of the most talented people I've ever met, Ned Landon. And, the difference between me and him it's circumstance and happenstance, So here I am, very fortunate to be in this beautiful studio and living now that has air conditioning and it's not raining on my head and all this, and we're talking over this magical device. And so what am I going to do with the time that I have now that I have this prolonged life, not only just as the expansion of since the scientific revolution, that I've lived to be much longer, but I escaped death like that, and it's told me a lot about how to decide who to work with and whom to spend my time with. Yeah. And I think at times maybe I would get caught up in momentum or just what's happening, and hadn't thought of that as much. But this certainly has changed this year for me.
What's the answer now for you?
What is the answer?
Do you have the answer?
Well,
or why you asked yourself why you write music at all? What is the answer?
Yeah. In fact, it's so crazy. I'll tell you a short parable that I kind of that kind of occurred to me, that I maybe knew but I didn't know. Right. It's like with anything in life. So in Nuremberg, so there's something also in art dreaming called the Gates of Time. I'd written it right before Nuremberg, right before any of this happened to me, right? Mm-hmm. And I was kind of looking at the rest of my life, and I was so excited about doing the films I was doing and working with Taylor Sheridan and, and the new Yellowstone stuff and Nuremberg in particular. And Are We Dreaming? And I didn't even realize what this meant. And this is really something. So Gates of Time, it's one of the songs in it. And you see 2 children being born. Up at the top, it says 38,924. Basically, that's just days. You see them grow up. You see one playing piano. You see one doing gymnastics. And they grow up and you see the clock turning down. 32,000, 30,000, 29,000, 27,000. As it goes down, you realize you're seeing through their life, right? As they grow up. And then the average age, I guess, of my audience, right in the middle, 22,000, it says, instead of the number, it says now. And you realize it's today. And it says the date. It would say January 11th, 2026 now. But then it keeps going. They get old. The person used to play PlayStation and make fun of his friends in college. Now he's playing cards and he's maybe 70 years old in poker, and they're getting older. Then there's 700 days left, 500 days left. Old couple. Now there's only one. 400, 350 days, 40, 30, lots of hospital visits. It's really quickly cut. And it's day 0. We all will have a day 0. All of us. And there's an older hand being held by a younger hand. And then right at that moment, an entity, whether it be a spirit or an angel or whatever, intervenes and says, and I'll ask this question to you or to anyone, ask the audience. Right now you're on day 0, but if you could go back, let's say 30 years to January 11th, or January 12th, Monday, 2026, would you? And of course I would say, yes, I'd be young again. And then in the Gates of Time, in Are We Dreaming, it takes you all the way back and it drops you right now. And then it asks the question to the audience, what is the difference between having just happened 5 seconds ago, you not being aware of it, and right now us talking? There's 0 difference. That might have just happened. Maybe it just happened to you. Maybe you were on day 0 and you've just materialized right now with me, or maybe me. And that was something I'd written. The thing that I didn't know when I wrote that was that I would have my own Gates of Time experience this year. I was on day 0. And I was brought back to now. So with that perspective.
And that happened this year?
Yeah. When I had my brain hemorrhage, it was that for me when they said, if you close your eyes, you're not going to open them again, probably. That was my day 0. And then I was brought back from day 0 to alive. And,
You've got a lot
I
to
didn't realize that I'd written like so Sophie had said to me, "You just had your own Gates of Time experience, dude." Like what? The very thing that I kind of the stories I want to tell. That story, Gates of Time, that I want to tell in Are We Dreaming, it's a part of it. Now has crossed with my life, and when I do something like a film like Nuremberg that can really also say something as well to the human condition, it crosses, and that's really what I want to do. I want something that can connect and not just entertain, but say something that can illuminate. I always say I want to create more light than heat. More understanding than arguing. More, and that's never more true than it is now.
You're inspiring, Brian.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Yeah, you've got a lot to offer, a lot of stories left in you, don't you?
Yeah. I got it. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
How inspiring. So the music, Nuremberg, the soundtrack, the music that you created, how do you think it's contributed to the memory of Nuremberg?
Yeah, now it's kind of interesting because now with anything that's like a major kind of work on a historical event, strangely enough, becomes part of history. So it's kind of like as people watch Nuremberg as a part of some understanding of what Nuremberg is now in history, you're inevitably going to be hearing that music, and it'll be molding their perception of what that experience is emotionally, because facts and figures are precursor to emotion. We are, at the end of the day, no matter what it is, we experience and to make decisions based on our emotional reaction to things, and that's why we're a social species, and now the wild thing is to know that all those little choices I made on every piece of music now kind of affects in some way how history is perceived about an event
that's so true. How amazing.
The way, that is part of how we understand it through film and such a powerful medium,
And how do you look at your place in all of that? And that you've been that conduit, that you've created that it's like that butterfly effect, right? That you've
butterfly effect. Hey, that's in Are We Dreaming too? The cosmic butterfly. It's one of the pieces. One little thing happens and anyway. It's like you're right in there, man. But yeah, you're right. Each little decision, it could have caused a pivotal part in the movie for someone that is watching that ends up being a politician that is making decisions later on. Let's say, and then something comes up like Minnesota right now, or whatever it might be, and is the deciding vote, and they're in the Senate, and they remember this movie affected me, and you go back and for that particular person, hinging on it impacting him or not in a way that had enough power to make a decision later, might have been this one scene. And that one scene, I mean, you're right. It's a butterfly effect. And so each note was like the responsibility felt heightened. And so we'll have to see. We'll never really know, will we? but it certainly, I'm hoping that it has a net positive effect, and that me being here has that,
There were moments where there were lines or there were phrases or something was pointed out where like I said, that's right now. But this film was made before now, right? But so I love the idea that maybe a senator or maybe a congressperson or somewhere out there, maybe a president will hear this or feel this or feel what
it stacks. It's like lots of movements. So look at Vietnam, the anti-war movement, often the youth connected to hippies, connected to what? Music culture, and hearing, protest music that you could sing in the streets while you were marching. And it's like the music has always had a very close connection to social movements, and also just a kind of almost more quietly a part of what we think of history through film. And since that is a medium that's probably the most effective at telling a story, through a historical story and giving context, that certainly it's inextricably tied. Even music that's outside of film, can be the cosmic butterfly, the butterfly flap that makes someone decide in their own way, wait a minute, I was wrong about maybe how I was raised about certain things. My parents thought maybe this about society and this segment of society, but I'm going this way because I saw this thing that had me go research more and lit a fire, and I realized, wait, I'm not that. I'm this. And then that person influences friends, has kids, does whatever. And all of a sudden the needle has moved that way, and hopefully that's in the direction of empathy and understanding.
Brian, it's such a meaningful moment right now in our history as humanity, but it's also such a meaningful moment in this film's journey, Nuremberg. And I want to thank you for spending some time with us, with me, and sharing these ideas and these thoughts. And, today I really do appreciate you. I appreciate your gift and what you've given all of us in enjoyment and the music. So thank you so much.
Right back at you. Thank you so much.
The score for Nuremberg deserves to be heard with intention, and you can see it now in the theaters, on Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, Google Play Movies, or Fandango at home. It's available at all these places. So it's also, I want to point out, it's directed by James Vanderbilt, and the producers are James Vanderbilt, Richard Saperstein, Brad Fisher. Story by Jack L. High, distributed by Sony Pictures Classic. Go see it and catch up and keep up if you can. That's a challenge with Brian Tyler in a theater near you or online at briantyler.com. You can find him on Instagram at briantylermusic. The final line on the screen in Nuremberg is, "The only clue to what man can do is what man has done," by British philosopher R.G. Collingwood.
That's right.
We're going to listen to Suite 4 now, Never Shall We Forget, by Brian Tyler. And Brian Tyler's immersive audio-visual experience, Are We Dreaming?, explores the universe and our place in it through exhilarating music and powerful imagery. It's an explosive visual journey through space and time, and it encourages joy and self-discovery. Composer, artist, and multi-instrumentalist Brian Tyler combines his film and electronic music backgrounds to create the sound and the images of this remarkable experience, set to modern music ranging from electronic to hip-hop and symphonic. Brian Tyler describes it as a modern-day Fantasia crossed with the visual spectacle of films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Blade Runner. And it's coming this spring and summer to a city near you. I know it's going to be in LA and Las Vegas, but you can keep up with it. The dates when they drop on arewedreaming.com. Brian, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you tonight.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate it.
Okay. Communicate, but listen more and evolve.